And rounding up the panel is the Head Business Solutions, Seclore, Head Business Solutions, Seclore, Zubin Dalal. Thank you, Mr. Dalal. And with that, it's time to hand you over to your moderator, Nitin Mehta.
I know you probably had a long day, starting at 9:30 with traffic around. Probably it got delayed. We'll make sure that I'll request my panels and also ensure that we finish our session in 45 minutes. I also want to probably first start with thanking all of you for being here and giving a patient hearing to all the speakers and getting to know as much as you can from them. I also want to take this opportunity to thank the panel. I think taking time out of their extremely busy schedules and coming here specifically for this session. Thank you, gentlemen. So, there have been enough talks over the last 5 to 6 years, probably 7, about cloud. Cloud features in your SMAC, cloud features in CAMs, cloud features everywhere. And there also has been a huge amount of debate on security on cloud. So whenever you run a survey, people come back and say, I am concerned about security. And what we're going to do as part of this panel discussion is predominantly understand, is it really a reality or security concerns over cloud is a myth? So from this point of view, we will start this panel discussion. So Zubin, Excel actually picked up a very valuable input in terms of which country has what regulations and how does that impact your data residing there. Can you brief the audience and the panel members here in terms of how can one typical implement controls over data in the cloud? Right. Will that be very different than an on-premise environment vis-a-vis a cloud environment?
In many ways, I mean, people look at implementing cloud as a one-way street where you sort of have to give up control. You have to give up some part of ownership. You have to give up some part of the value of what that data means to the organization. So you have to sort of depend on an external party or the outsourced vendor. But there are many ways in which you can also control. You can still manage to hold complete ownership of that data. And in many ways, I feel with high quality service providers, given with specific where data laws are more stringent, probably more supportive of the owners of the data, it could actually be a higher security zone. Actually hosting data somewhere overseas where the laws are far tougher on data leakages or somebody trying to steal or cybercrime. In many ways, it could actually strengthen your security infrastructure or your security approach, and especially in high collaborative kind of applications where collaboration or sharing or exchanging data is why that application has been put in place. Many cases where application is so that data can be shared, right? In those kind of cases, I think it could actually turn around and be a benefit, because if you go with an Amazon or a well-structured service provider like Microsoft or Oracle or whoever offers some of these cloud services, it will probably be that they would have more resources. They would be able to scale. If they are having a large offering, they would be able to do much better in many ways than what you would be able to do in a medium-sized data center of your own. And the access to knowledge, information, tools, automation that they might have would actually give you a better security posture than sometimes what you would be able to do on site. I'm not talking about ownership. Ownership, there is still ways in which they can be controlled. But in terms of pure security and the capability for somebody to get into your data or your software.
Zubin, Edsel also mentioned about information being on a cloud. You will also probably have to be aware where that actually is hosted. In a shared environment where yours as well as probably your competes in some lot many companies' data is hosted, is there a concern or is there something which corporate should worry about in terms of how do I isolate my data from someone else's, especially in a SaaS model, right, which is a large CRM system? Quite often the database may be the common database and it just has yours as well as quite a few of your competes and other companies from many other countries.
Right.
So is there something which companies should worry about in terms of isolating their information vis-a-vis someone else's? And if yes, are there any techniques or tools that probably groups should be aware of?
Absolutely. So it all bubbles back to choosing your service provider, to choosing your SaaS service itself. Very often the need or the reason for going into a cloud offering is to reduce cost, to reduce maintenance, to get a feature-rich offering which is not available maybe on-site or is more expensive if deployed in-house. But there's this other aspect of how much control you have on the data, how granular is your access to it, how well it stays within maybe borders or boundaries that it needs to stay within. So all the way back to actually choosing your service provider or your application or the offering itself. I think this needs to be as part of that evaluation process, and as IT and InfoSec people, that's the contribution that IT and InfoSec teams need to make when choosing a service provider. Not just a CRM tool which the marketing team and the sales team love because it's very good and very useful and fast or feature rich, but also this aspect of will we have access to the data when we need it, do we get enough control mechanisms, do we get the logs, how fast, how well, what is their response time if there is an incident, what is their structure in terms of monitoring, how many layers of security do they use. So that whole thing has to come into the evaluation process of the service provider. Sometimes people feel that just looking at features or capabilities of the CRM tool, for example, and not necessarily all the other aspects of it. So one is actually during the evaluation process itself, IT and InfoSec teams need to be involved to a very detailed level on this part. And of course there are many tools that are available. There is a whole family of monitoring and control software and tracking. You can keep your keys and the data goes in the cloud with the key which is on premise. There are various ways in which Amazon does it or the other guys do it. You can protect your data and put it on the cloud. Nobody can open it unless he's the authorized user for that data. So there are various ways in which sharing or data access can be controlled even though the data lies in the cloud. The access mechanisms might lie on premise, right, or on device or on premise, right. So while the data, the raw data might still reside in the cloud, the access mechanism, tools, keys, etc. might still be within the control of the organization or the enterprise itself. So there are various ways in doing it.
Thank you so much, Zubin. Zubin, would you share the similar views with Tarun or probably?
Yeah. So if I can give a perspective, what we do, we offer we have an offering which is software as a service, but then we use infrastructure as a service to provide that software as a service. So we're sort of using infrastructure service, providing software as a service. So we are kind of cloud buyers as well as sort of providing services in the cloud. In many aspects, the cloud offering of infrastructure service has only helped us to sort of leapfrog. If we had to do all that ourselves or put physical servers in a data center or even if it was outsourced, it has given us a huge step jump forward in terms of we use the best in class services. So it gives us a lot of sanctity to our if the infrastructure as a service is as rock solid as this service provider, then it means that our software as a service will only be more strong. They already give us 99.8% uptime, so I need to only make sure that my application is robust enough and I don't need to worry about infrastructure. So I mean using best in class services and assuming that you're already saving some cost and getting enough flexibility by using the cloud, you don't try to sort of over optimize that and go with a lower end or somebody who doesn't have as much reputation. And I think this is all emerging, so India still needs a lot more richness in the offerings that are available. At least I'm talking about within the country, before we can say that we have enough of a menu to pick from in terms of service providers and people who can give me very stable, very rock solid performance.
Thank you so much for giving us a very patient hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I request you please present our panelists with mementos on behalf of the organizers. Zubin Dalal of Seclore. May I request the panel to give us a group photograph? Ladies and gentlemen, with this section, we conclude this edition of TechSec 2014. We'd like to thank you all for making it so very special.